Captain Daniel Carter stood in the center of the massive hall with his hands locked in glowing restraints that hummed with strange alien power. The chamber was so tall that its ceiling disappeared into darkness above him. All around the circular wall sat representatives from 47 different alien species. Each one stared down at him with cold eyes. Some looked angry. Some looked curious. Most just looked like they had already decided he was guilty. High above the floor, the Council of Galactic Unity sat on their elevated platforms. Their faces were lit by a pale blue sphere that floated in the center of the room. This was the Judgment Sphere, and it was about to declare his fate. Commander Lisa Hayes watched from a viewing platform reserved for detained crew members. Her hands gripped the metal railing so hard her knuckles turned white. She had served with Daniel for 6 years aboard their ship, the Endeavor. She knew him better than anyone else in the galaxy. He was a good man. He was a hero who saved lives. But these aliens did not care about that. They only cared about their laws and their politics. The charges against Daniel were serious. 3 months ago, he had been leading a rescue mission on a human colony world called Terra Nova. Raiders from a species called the Krell had attacked the colony. They were killing civilians and burning homes. Daniel and his team arrived just in time to stop them. But to do it, Daniel had to make a terrible choice. The raiders were using an old temple as their base. They had filled it with weapons and were planning to use those weapons to kill everyone on the planet. Daniel gave the order to destroy the temple. The explosion killed the raiders and saved 2,000 human colonists. But the temple belonged to another alien species called the Vorath. They were a proud race that valued their religious traditions above everything else. The Vorath claimed that Daniel had destroyed a sacred holy site on purpose. They said he had murdered 12 of their priests who were inside the temple. They demanded justice. They wanted Daniel erased from existence completely. Not just killed, but erased so that every trace of him would be gone forever. Daniel had tried to explain what really happened. He told the council that the temple was being used as a weapons storage facility by the Krell raiders. He said the priests were already dead when he arrived. He insisted that he had no choice but to destroy the building, or thousands of innocent people would have died. But the Vorath refused to listen. They had powerful friends on the council. They had spent weeks presenting false evidence and paying witnesses to lie. Now the council was ready to announce their verdict. High Magistrate Soren rose from his seat. He was from a species called the Etherian. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow colors. He was nearly 8 feet tall and his voice was deep and commanding. He raised one shimmering hand and the entire chamber fell silent. Captain Daniel Carter of Earth, Magistrate Soren began, you have been found guilty of desecration of sacred property and the murder of 12 innocent priests. The evidence presented by the Vorath Collective has been examined by this council. We have heard testimony from witnesses. We have reviewed all available data. The verdict is clear. You are guilty as charged. A wave of whispers ran through the chamber. Lisa felt her heart sink. This could not be happening. Daniel was innocent. Everyone who knew the truth understood that he had saved lives, not destroyed them. Magistrate Soren continued speaking. The penalty for your crimes is erasure. You will be dissolved at the molecular level. Every memory of you will be wiped from all data systems. Your name will be forgotten. Your existence will end completely. Do you have any final words before the sentence is carried out? Daniel lifted his head. His jaw was tight, but his eyes were steady. He would not beg. He would not apologize for doing the right thing. I did what I had to do to save lives, he said. His voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. If that makes me guilty in your eyes, then so be it. But I will not apologize for choosing to save my people over your politics. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates shouted in anger. Others nodded in agreement. Lisa felt tears running down her face. She wanted to scream, but no sound would come out. Magistrate Soren raised his hand again to call for silence. But before he could speak, something strange happened. The floor began to shake. A deep rumbling sound came from somewhere far below them. The lights in the chamber flickered. The judgment sphere wobbled in the air. All around the room, the delegates looked at each other in confusion. What is happening? Demanded Counselor Vex. He was a member of the Drachnor species, a race that looked like giant lizards with black scales that shined like polished stone. The rumbling grew louder. The shaking became more violent. Suddenly, from a sealed vault beneath the main platform, a pillar of golden light shot upward. It was so bright that many delegates had to shield their eyes. The light was warm and pure. It felt ancient and powerful. The pillar of light solidified into a physical form. A pedestal rose from the floor, and on top of it sat a crystal artifact that pulsed with inner radiance. Magistrate Soren stumbled backward. His crystalline face showed an expression of pure shock. "The relic of judgment," he whispered. His voice was filled with disbelief. "It has been dormant for 10,000 years. It should not be waking now." The artifact began to glow even brighter. Then a voice filled the entire chamber. It was ancient and powerful. It spoke in a language that should have been unknown to everyone present. But somehow every being in the room could understand the words perfectly. Bearer of justice identified. Current judgment is invalid. The truth will now be revealed. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates jumped to their feet shouting. Security forces rushed toward the pedestal, but an invisible barrier stopped them from getting close. Alarms began to sound. The judgment sphere shattered into 1,000 pieces of light that rained down like snow. Daniel felt the energy restraints around his wrists suddenly disappear. He stumbled forward and caught himself. The golden light from the relic reached toward him like living fingers. He could feel it pulling at him. It was gentle but impossible to resist. "Stay away from that human," Counselor Vex shouted. He reached for the plasma weapon on his belt. But before anyone could move, the golden light wrapped around Daniel completely. Lisa screamed his name, but her voice was lost in the roar that filled the chamber. The last thing Daniel saw before the light took him was Lisa's terrified face. Then everything changed. Inside the golden light, Daniel experienced something beyond anything he had ever known. His body felt like it was dissolving and reforming at the same time. Memories that were not his own flooded into his mind. He saw the rise and fall of entire civilizations. He watched as species were born, grew powerful, and then vanished into dust. He witnessed wars that consumed whole galaxies. He felt the weight of billions of decisions that affected trillions of lives across thousands of years. Through all of these visions, Daniel felt a presence examining him. It was ancient beyond measure. It was wise and patient. It moved through his thoughts and memories like water flowing through sand. It studied every choice he had ever made, every moment of doubt, every act of courage, every sacrifice. The presence was judging him, but not in the way the council had judged him. This was deeper. This was about who he truly was at his core. Then the voice spoke directly into his mind. Only Daniel could hear it now. "You carry the spark of true justice, Daniel Carter. Not the justice of laws written by politicians. Not the justice of procedures designed to protect the powerful. You carry the justice of the heart. The willingness to sacrifice everything for what is right. The Vorath have lied about you. Their priests were not innocent victims. They were conspirators. They worked with the Krell Raiders. They planned to help enslave your entire colony. You stopped not just a raid that day, you stopped genocide. Yet they would erase you from existence for preventing their crime." Daniel felt anger rising in his chest. "Then show them the truth," he thought back at the presence. "Show everyone what really happened." "I will do more than that," the voice replied. "I will make you my bearer. I will make you my voice in this corrupt age. The galaxy has fallen far from the ideals of justice and truth. Lies have become accepted. The strong prey upon the weak without consequence. Good beings suffer while evil ones prosper. I need someone to carry my power and restore balance. But this burden is heavy. It will cost you more than you can imagine. Will you accept it?" Daniel thought about Lisa and his crew. He thought about the thousands of humans living on colony worlds throughout the galaxy. They were always at the mercy of older and more powerful alien species. They were treated like children or pets or useful primitives. No one took them seriously. No one cared when they suffered. Someone needed to stand up for them. Someone needed to show the galaxy that humanity mattered. "Yes," Daniel said without hesitation. "I accept." The light exploded outward in a wave of pure energy. Daniel fell to his knees on the tribunal floor. The golden restraints were gone. The light had released him. But he was different now. When he opened his eyes, they glowed with the same golden radiance as the relic. When he stood up, there was a presence about him that made even the meal. Powerful delegates stepped backward in fear. He could feel the relic's power flowing through him. It was part of him now. They were connected in a way that could never be broken. The relic's voice filled the chamber once more. Everyone could hear it now. Witness the truth. Holographic images materialized in the air above the tribunal floor. They were pulled from Daniel's memories but enhanced with information that the relic had gathered from the very fabric of space and time itself. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the events on Terra Nova played out before their eyes like a movie. The images showed the Vorath priests meeting in secret with Krell warlords. The priest accepted payment in blood credits, a currency earned by selling slaves. The images showed them laughing as they discussed the best ways to break human spirits through torture. They showed the priests helping to load weapons into the temple. They showed the priests planning which human children would fetch the highest prices in the slave markets. Then the images showed Daniel's desperate race to stop the raid. They showed him discovering the weapons cache in the temple. They showed him trying to negotiate with the priest to evacuate before he destroyed the building. But most damning of all, the images showed something that Daniel himself had never witnessed. The priests had been trying to activate a doomsday device hidden in the temple's foundation. It was a weapon designed to kill every human on Terra Nova in one massive explosion. By destroying the temple, Daniel had accidentally prevented the device from being triggered. He had not saved 2,000 lives that day. He had saved 200,000. When the images finally faded, the chamber was completely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The truth hung in the air like a physical weight. High Magistrate Soren slowly lowered himself back into his seat. His crystalline face reflected shame and shock. Around the chamber, delegates whispered to each other. Some looked angry. Some looked frightened. Many looked sick with the realization of what they had almost done. "This cannot be true," hissed Envoy Talrek. He was the lead representative of the Vorath Collective. His violet skin had turned a sickly gray color. His elongated fingers gripped the edge of his platform so hard that the metal began to bend. "These images are lies. They are human trickery designed to make us look evil. The relic has been corrupted by this primitive's touch. You cannot trust what it shows you." The golden light around Daniel flared brighter. The relic's voice thundered through the chamber with such force that several delegates grabbed their heads in pain. "Silence, deceiver. For 10,000 years I have served as the ultimate arbiter of truth in this galaxy. I was forged by the architects themselves. They were beings whose understanding of justice transcended all the petty politics and corruption that plague this council now. I cannot be corrupted. I cannot be deceived. I cannot lie. What I have shown you is the absolute truth. The Vorath conspired to commit genocide. This human stopped them. That is reality. Accept it or reject it, but do not dare to question my integrity." Commander Lisa Hayes had managed to push past the security forces during the chaos. She ran across the tribunal floor toward Daniel, but when she got close, she stopped. His eyes were still glowing with that otherworldly golden light. There was something different about him now, something powerful and ancient. She felt almost afraid to approach him. "Daniel?" she said softly. Her voice was uncertain. He turned to look at her. For a moment, the glow in his eyes faded slightly. A sad smile crossed his face. He could see the fear in her eyes. He could see that she was struggling to recognize him. "I am still me, Lisa, just more now. The relic has given me knowledge and power, but I am still the same man you have served with for 6 years. I promise you that." Lisa wanted to believe him. She wanted to run to him and hug him and tell him how terrified she had been. But before she could move, another voice rang out across the chamber. "Even if the humans' actions on Terra Nova were justified, this changes nothing about our legal procedures," Counselor Vex declared. The massive Draknor rose from his seat. His black scales rippled with agitation. "The trial was conducted according to galactic law. We followed every proper protocol. We cannot simply overturn a legal verdict because an ancient artifact disagrees with it. That would set a dangerous precedent. It would undermine the entire justice system we have built over thousands of years." Several other delegates voiced their agreement. They nodded and shouted their support for Vex's position. But just as many delegates shouted them down. They demanded that Daniel be freed immediately. They called for the Vorath to be arrested and tried for their crimes. The chamber was dividing right down the middle. Half supported maintaining the original verdict regardless of the truth. The other half demanded justice for Daniel and punishment for the Vorath. Daniel watched the chaos unfold around him. Through his connection with the relic, he could sense something deeper happening. The corruption in this chamber went far beyond just the Vorath conspiracy. Dozens of the species represented here had their own terrible secrets. They had their own crimes hidden behind the pretty words of galactic law. They feared the Relic's awakening because they feared being exposed themselves. They feared that their own lies would be dragged into the light. Magistrate Soren finally struck his judgment staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Order! We will have order in this council!" His voice carried the weight of centuries of authority. Slowly, the shouting died down. Delegates returned to their seats. But the tension in the air remained thick and dangerous. When the chamber was finally quiet, Magistrate Soren spoke again. His crystalline features reflected the golden light from the relic in 1,000 different directions. The relic of judgment was placed in this chamber by the architects themselves. They left it here as a safeguard against the very corruption it has now exposed. Its authority supersedes all of ours. It supersedes every law we have written. It supersedes every tradition we follow. The architects created it to be the final word on matters of truth and justice. Therefore, by the ancient covenant that all species agreed to when they joined the Galactic Unity, I have no choice but to accept its judgment. Captain Daniel Carter is hereby exonerated of all charges. He is free to go. Unacceptable. Envoy Talrek leaped to his feet so fast his chair toppled backward. The Vorath Collective will not stand for this insult. You are allowing a primitive species to make fools of us. You are letting an ancient machine overrule the will of this council. If you proceed with this farce, we will withdraw from the Galactic Unity immediately, and we will take our 17 client species with us. Other delegates began shouting their own threats and demands. The Krell ambassador stood and declared that his government wanted reparations for the loss of their raiding party. A representative from the Zeltron species called for the relic to be sealed away again, before it could cause more disruption to galactic affairs. Several smaller species who relied on the protection of larger powers looked nervously between the various factions, trying to decide which side to support. Daniel felt power surging through him from the relic. It would be so easy to end this argument right now. One word from him, one thought channeled through the relic's power. He could force all of them to see the truth. He could make them acknowledge every crime and every lie. He could compel them to be better than they were. The temptation was overwhelming. The power was right there waiting for him to use it. "Don't," Lisa whispered beside him. She had somehow sensed what he was thinking. "Don't become the monster they fear. If you force them, you are no better than they are. You will prove that they were right to be afraid of you." Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the faith in her eyes. Not faith in his power, not faith in what the relic had made him. She had faith in the man he had been before all of this happened. The man who made hard choices but never abused his authority. The man who protected the weak but never became a tyrant himself. Slowly, the golden glow around him dimmed. The power receded back into the relic. He turned to address the assembled delegates. His voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the vast chamber. "I don't want to rule over you. I don't want to force you to be better than you are. I don't want to use this power to make you obey me. But I will not let you sweep the truth aside just because it is inconvenient for you. The Vorath conspired to commit genocide against my people. They would have succeeded if I had not stopped them. That is the truth. What you choose to do with that truth is up to you, but you cannot pretend it does not exist anymore." Magistrate Soren nodded slowly. There was respect in his ancient eyes now. The human speaks with wisdom beyond his years. "Very well. I call for a formal vote. All those in favor of accepting the relic's judgment and holding the Vorath Collective accountable for their conspiracy, signal your consent now." The voting sphere at the center of the chamber came back to life. It had repaired itself after shattering earlier. Now it lit up with countless points of light. Each light represented one delegate's choice. Green lights meant acceptance of the relic's judgment. Red lights meant rejection. The lights swirled together in the sphere like a miniature galaxy. For a long moment, the balance seemed completely equal. Then slowly, but gradually, the green lights began to outnumber the red ones. When the final count appeared in glowing numbers above the sphere, the decision was clear. 63% of the delegates had voted to accept the relic's judgment. It was not unanimous. It was not even an overwhelming majority. But it was enough. A roar of outrage erupted from the Vorath section of the chamber. Envoy Talrek rose to his full height. His violet skin was now flushed dark purple with fury. His hands trembled with rage. "Then the Vorath Collective hereby severs all ties with the Galactic Unity. We withdraw our membership effective immediately. We will remember this betrayal. We will remember how you chose to believe a primitive human and his magic artifact over the word of a founding member species. And we will have our revenge. Mark my words, all of you. This insult will not go unanswered. With those words hanging in the air like a curse, Envoy Talrek and the entire Vorath delegation stormed out of the chamber. Their boots echoed on the metal floor. The sound of their departure seemed to go on forever. Moments later, 17 other delegations rose and followed them out. These were the client species who had tied their fortunes to the Vorath centuries ago. They had no choice but to stand with their patrons now, even if they privately disagreed with the decision. Daniel felt a hollow ache growing in his chest. Through his connection with the Relic, he could sense ripples spreading outward from this moment. What had seemed like a victory was actually the beginning of something far more dangerous. The galaxy was fracturing. Ancient alliances were breaking apart, and he was the cause of it all. Captain Carter, Magistrate Soren said quietly. He descended from his platform to stand before Daniel. Up close, the Etherian magistrate was even more imposing. He towered over Daniel by more than 2 feet. His crystalline body refracted the light into rainbow patterns on the walls. You have been vindicated. Your name has been cleared, but I fear that is cold comfort for what is to come. The Vorath will not forgive this humiliation. Their collective controls 70 star systems. They command a military fleet of 3,000 warships. By tomorrow morning, they will have declared you an enemy of their entire civilization. Every Vorath in the galaxy will be honor-bound to kill you on sight. Let them try, Daniel said, but his voice lacked real conviction. He was one man. The Endeavor was one ship with a crew of only 200 people. What could they possibly do against an empire that wanted them dead? Daniel, we need to think about what comes next, Lisa said. She stepped closer to him. We cannot fight the Vorath Collective. We cannot protect ourselves against that kind of power. We need help. We need allies. We need a plan. The Relic pulsed with light. Suddenly, knowledge began flowing into Daniel's mind. Images and coordinates and ancient star maps. The Relic is showing me something, he said slowly. His eyes took on a distant look as he processed the information. There are other artifacts left by the architects. They are scattered across the galaxy. Each one contains a piece of their power and their knowledge. If we can find them, we might be able to protect ourselves. We might even be able to protect all of humanity from what is coming. Magistrate Soren's crystalline eyes widened in surprise. The architect relics? Those are legends, stories told to children. No one has found one in recorded history. Most scholars believe they never existed at all. They existed, Daniel said with absolute certainty. The Relic is showing me where they are, or at least where they were hidden 10,000 years ago. Some have been destroyed over the millennia. Some have been lost to natural disasters or the collapse of stars. But there are 7 others still intact. 7 other relics waiting to be found in places the architects considered significant. A new voice cut through their conversation. Then humanity will help you find them. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Helen Price striding across the tribunal floor. She was flanked by 2 human Marines in full combat armor. Helen was Earth's official representative to the Galactic Unity. She was a veteran diplomat with silver hair and steel in her eyes. She had been watching the trial from the observer's gallery. Now she approached with obvious purpose and determination. Ambassador Price, Daniel said. He straightened to attention out of habit. I thought you were not allowed to intervene during my trial. The trial is over, Helen replied crisply. And now we face much bigger problems than one man's innocence or guilt. I have been in contact with Earth during the voting recess. The Colonial Assembly has convened an emergency session. They want you to come home, Captain Carter. They want you to lead an expedition to find these relics. You will have full government backing and whatever resources you need. Daniel exchanged a glance with Lisa. He could see the worry in her eyes. Earth wants to weaponize the architect's technology, he said quietly. Ambassador Helen Price did not flinch at Daniel's words. She had been a diplomat long enough to expect such suspicions. Earth wants to survive, Captain. You have upset the balance of power that has kept this galaxy relatively stable for the past 1,000 years. Half the species here view you as a hero. You are proof that the older races do not have a monopoly on virtue and justice. But the other half see you as a dangerous radical who needs to be eliminated before you inspire others to question their authority. Right now, humanity is caught in the middle of something that could destroy us all. She paused and looked around the chamber at the remaining delegates. Many of them were whispering among themselves. Some were staring at Daniel with expressions that ranged from hope to hatred. If we do not find those relics first, someone else will. And I promise you, Captain, they will not use that power to protect the innocent or uphold justice. They will use it to maintain their control over the weak. They will use it to crush anyone who dares to challenge them. Daniel felt the weight of her words settling over him like a physical burden. Through his connection with the relic, he could sense something darker beneath the surface of galactic politics. Images flashed through his mind. Alien fleet formations gathering in the dark spaces between stars. Weapons capable of cracking entire planets open like eggs. Genetic plagues specifically designed to target human DNA and nothing else. The older races had been secretly preparing for this day. They had been preparing for the moment when humanity became too powerful, too numerous, too difficult to control. That day had just arrived ahead of schedule. Then we have no choice, Daniel said quietly. He looked at Lisa and saw the grim determination in her eyes. Commander Hayes, get the Endeavor ready to depart immediately. I want us out of this system within the hour. Already done, sir. Lisa replied with a slight smile. I had Chief Engineer Kyle Morrison running pre-flight checks the moment the relic cleared your name. We can leave whenever you give the word. Magistrate Soren raised one crystalline hand. Before you depart, Captain Carter, there is something you must understand. The vote today was close. Far closer than I would have preferred. Many delegates abstained from voting not because they believed in your innocence, but because they feared what the relic might reveal about their own crimes if they voted against you. The galactic unity is more fragile now than it has been in 1,000 years. There are factions within this council who will do anything to prevent you from gaining more power. Are you asking me to return the relic? Daniel asked. He was genuinely surprised by the question. No, Magistrate Soren said softly. His ancient eyes held a depth of sadness that spoke of centuries of watching civilizations rise and fall. I am asking you to be careful with the power you now carry. The architects created these relics as tools of justice. But justice without mercy becomes tyranny. Justice without wisdom becomes cruelty. Remember that, bearer, in the dark days that are coming. Remember that power can corrupt even the most noble intentions. Daniel nodded slowly. He felt the truth of those words resonating in his bones. I will remember. I promise you that. As they turned to leave the chamber, Ambassador Price fell into step beside them. Her 2 Marine guards followed at a respectful distance. There is one more thing you need to know, Captain. The Vorath were not working alone in their conspiracy against you. Our intelligence services intercepted communications during the week before your trial. There is a coalition forming among the older species. They call themselves the Preservation Pact. They believe that humanity's rapid expansion across the galaxy needs to be stopped by any means necessary. They see us as a threat to the established order. How many species are in this pact? Lisa asked. Her voice was tight with concern. Helen's expression grew even more grim. 32 at last count, including some we thought were our friends and allies. The Centaurians have joined. So have the Meridian Consortium and the Astral Confederacy. Each one brings dozens of client species with them. We are looking at a potential alliance of over 100 star systems united against humanity. The enormity of the situation crashed over Daniel like a wave. By seeking justice, by refusing to accept a false verdict, by surviving when they wanted him erased, he had inadvertently started a war between humanity and a significant portion of the known galaxy. And now, somehow, he had to find a way to prevent that war from destroying everything he cared about. They walked through the corridors of the tribunal complex in silence. Other delegates gave them a wide berth. Some stared with open hostility. Others looked at Daniel with something like religious awe. The relic's presence seemed to affect everyone differently. When they finally reached the docking bay where the Endeavor was waiting, Daniel felt a sense of relief. The ship represented safety and familiarity in a galaxy that had suddenly become much more dangerous. The Endeavor was a medium-sized exploration vessel. It was not built for combat, though it had adequate defensive weapons. Its primary purpose was scientific research and diplomatic missions. The hull was a sleek silver-gray color with Earth's flag painted proudly on both sides. As they approached, the main airlock opened and Chief Engineer Kyle Morrison appeared. He was a stocky man with grease stains on his uniform and a welcoming smile on his face. "Captain on deck," Kyle called out. Behind him, other crew members appeared to greet their commander. They cheered and applauded when they saw Daniel walking free. Many had tears in their eyes. Daniel felt emotion rising in his throat. These people had stood by him through everything. They had never doubted his innocence. They had waited and hoped while the council debated his fate. "Thank you," he said simply. "Thank you all for believing in me." "We always knew you were innocent, sir," said Lieutenant Marcus Webb. He was the ship's helmsman, a young officer with steady hands and sharp eyes. "No one who knows you could ever believe you would commit murder." Ambassador Price cleared her throat. "I hate to interrupt this reunion, but we need to move quickly. My sources tell me that several delegations are already petitioning the council to reverse its decision. They claim the Relic's judgment should not be considered legally binding. If we stay here much longer, they might try to detain you again." "Understood," Daniel said. He turned to his crew. "All hands to stations. Prepare for immediate departure. Set course for Earth. We have much to discuss with the Colonial Assembly." As the crew dispersed to their positions, Lisa pulled Daniel aside. "Are you sure about this? Once we go back to Earth, they will expect you to serve their interests. They will want to use you and the Relic as weapons against their enemies. Can you live with that?" Daniel looked down at the Relic where it hung at his side. It had shrunk to a manageable size after bonding with him. Now it was no larger than his fist, suspended on a chain of golden energy that wrapped around his waist. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "But what choice do I have? If I refuse to help, the Preservation Pact will hunt down every human colony in the galaxy. They will make examples of us. They will show everyone what happens to species that dare to challenge the old order. At least if I work with Earth, I can try to guide how this power is used." Lisa studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Just promise me one thing. Promise me you won't lose yourself in all this. Promise me you will stay the man I know, no matter how much power the Relic gives you." "I promise," Daniel said. He meant it with every fiber of his being, but even as he spoke the words, he wondered if it was a promise he could actually keep. The Endeavor's engines came to life with a deep thrumming sound that vibrated through the deck plates. On the bridge, Lieutenant Marcus Webb announced that all systems were ready for departure. Daniel took his seat in the captain's chair. It felt good to be home, even if that home was just a ship floating in the void. 3 days later, the Endeavor cut through the endless darkness of space at faster-than-light speed. In his private quarters, Daniel sat alone staring at the Relic of Judgment, where it rested on a specially constructed pedestal beside his desk. The artifact pulsed with that gentle golden light like a heartbeat made visible. Through the viewport, he could see 2 escort ships keeping pace with them. The destroyer Halifax was commanded by Captain Patricia Coleman, a veteran officer with 20 years of combat experience. The science vessel Newton was under the direction of Dr. Samuel Foster, one of Earth's leading experts on ancient alien technology. The Colonial Assembly had assigned both ships to support the search for the remaining relics, but Daniel knew they were also there to watch him. Not everyone on Earth trusted a man who carried the power of beings that had ruled the galaxy 10,000 years ago. A soft chime at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called out without looking away from the Relic. Lisa entered carrying 2 steaming mugs. She set one down in front of him on the desk. The rich smell of real coffee filled the small room. It was a luxury in deep space where most people had to settle for synthetic substitutes. "Thought you could use this. You have been staring at that thing for 6 hours straight." "Have I?" Daniel picked up the mug and wrapped his hands around it, enjoying the warmth. "It does not feel like 6 hours. Time moves differently when I am connected to the Relic. Minutes feel like seconds. Hours feel like minutes." "That worries me," Lisa said quietly. She settled into the chair across from him. "You are spending more and more time linked with that artifact. You barely eat. You barely sleep. The crew is starting to notice. They are worried about you." Daniel finally looked at her. He could see the concern in her eyes. "I am fine, Lisa. The Relic shows me things. Important things. Knowledge that could help us survive what is coming. I need to understand it all." "And what happens when there is no more of you left to understand anything?" Lisa challenged him. "What happens when you become so lost in that ancient knowledge that you forget who you are? Dr. Foster on the Newton wants to run medical scans on you. He says your neural patterns are changing. He says the Relic is rewriting your brain chemistry." "The Relic is not doing anything to me that I have not allowed," Daniel said defensively. But even as he spoke the words, he wondered if they were true. Could he really control what was happening to him? Or was he just fooling himself? Before Lisa could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Carter to the bridge immediately." We are approaching the coordinates for the first relic site. Daniel and Lisa hurried through the corridors to the bridge. The command crew was already at their stations, looking tense and focused. Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat at the helm with his hands ready on the controls. Ensign Sophie Mitchell monitored the sensor array, her young face tight with concentration. Lieutenant Commander Jack Peterson manned the tactical station, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Report," Daniel ordered as he took his seat in the captain's chair. "We have reached the Tertius Nebula, sir," Sophie announced. Her fingers danced across her console, bringing up data on the main view screen. According to the coordinates the relic provided, the second architect artifact should be located somewhere in the stellar nursery at the nebula's core. "But Captain, the radiation levels in there are extremely dangerous. Our shields will fail within 10 minutes of exposure, maybe less." Daniel closed his eyes and reached out to the relic with his mind. The connection snapped into place instantly now, as easy as breathing. Information flooded through him. Star charts and energy patterns and safe pathways through deadly radiation. The relic says there is a safe corridor through the nebula. It is narrow, only a few hundred meters wide in some places, but it exists. The architects designed it that way deliberately. They wanted to test anyone who came seeking their power. Only those worthy of finding the relics would be able to navigate the danger. He opened his eyes and began transferring the information directly from his mind through the relic and into the ship's navigation computer. It was a seamless process that would have been impossible just days ago. "Marcus, I am sending you the coordinates now. Follow them exactly. Even a slight deviation could be fatal." The Endeavour plunged into the nebula and the view screen erupted in a spectacular display of colors. Clouds of hydrogen gas glowed brilliant pink and orange. New stars were being born in the heart of the nebula, their nuclear fires burning through veils of cosmic dust. Streamers of electric blue light crackled between the gas clouds like lightning frozen in time. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "Radiation levels rising fast," Sophie reported. Her voice was tense. "Shields are down to 85% and dropping steadily." "Stay on the path," Daniel said calmly. His eyes remained closed as he guided them through the deadly maze. He could feel the safe corridor like a river flowing through chaos. He could sense the eddies and currents of radiation around them. "Marcus, adjust heading 3 degrees to port. Now down 2 degrees. Hold steady." The Endeavour twisted and turned through the nebula like a needle threading through fabric. Behind them, the Halifax and Newton struggled to follow. Their captains trusted Daniel's guidance even as their shields flickered and warning alarms screamed. Several times they came within meters of deadly radiation streams that would have cooked everyone aboard in seconds. "Almost there," Daniel murmured. Sweat beaded on his forehead from the concentration required. "Just a little further now." Then suddenly they were through. The Endeavour emerged into a pocket of calm space at the very heart of the nebula. The radiation levels dropped to almost nothing. The chaos fell away, and there, floating in the exact center of that impossible sanctuary, was a structure that defied belief. It was a ring so vast that it dwarfed even the largest space stations humanity had ever built. The ring must have been 50 kilometers in diameter at least. Its surface was covered in the same intricate geometric patterns that marked the first relic. The design seemed to shift and flow when viewed from different angles, creating an optical illusion that hurt the eyes if stared at too long. And at the very top of the ring, pulsing with warm golden light, was the second relic of judgment. "My God," Lisa whispered beside him. "It is incredible." But before anyone could say anything else, the sensor array suddenly screamed an urgent warning. Sophie's face went completely pale. "Captain, multiple ships decloaking all around us. Reading 20 contacts. They are Vorith warships, and they are powering up weapons." On the main view screen, the Vorith fleet materialized from stealth like ghosts becoming solid. Each warship bristled with weapons. At the center of the formation sat a massive dreadnought easily 3 times the size of the Endeavour. Its hull was covered in Vorath religious symbols and battle honors from 1,000 campaigns. A communication signal cut through the static. The image of Envoy Talrek appeared on the screen. His violet face was twisted with hatred and triumph. "Did you think we would simply let you claim more power, human? The Vorith Collective has studied the architects for thousands of years. We have dedicated entire universities to understanding their works. We know what you seek. We know why you have come here. And we will destroy you before we allow you to possess even one more relic." Daniel rose from his chair. The relic at his side began to glow brighter in response to his emotions. You have made a terrible mistake coming here, Talrek. This place is sacred ground. The architects left protections to guard their treasures. You cannot simply take what does not belong to you. Empty words and desperate threats, Talrek sneered. His elongated fingers gripped the arms of his command chair. You have no power here, human. Your one relic cannot stand against our entire fleet. All ships fire at will. Destroy the human vessel completely. The Vorath fleet opened fire as one. Space lit up with energy beams and missile trails. Dozens of weapons converged on the Endeavor from every direction. The crew braced for impact. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm. This was the end. But as the weapons approached, the ancient ring suddenly blazed with brilliant light. Every pattern on its surface ignited simultaneously. The energy weapons and missiles struck an invisible barrier surrounding the Endeavor, and simply dissolved into nothing. They vanished as if they had never existed at all. The second relic's voice echoed across every communication frequency. It was ancient and powerful and filled with righteous anger. Interlopers detected. Unauthorized vessels have violated sacred space. Initiating defense protocols. Judgment will now be rendered upon the unworthy. Daniel felt both relics resonating with each other, their power combined and amplified. Through his connection with them, he suddenly understood what was about to happen. The knowledge filled him with both awe and terror. All ships, emergency reverse thrust now, he shouted desperately. Get clear of the ring immediately. The Halifax and Newton responded without hesitation. Their engines flared to maximum power as they retreated. But the Vorath ships, caught completely by surprise, hesitated for just a moment. That moment of hesitation sealed their fate. The ancient ring began to spin. Slowly at first, then faster and faster until it became a solid disk of pure golden light. The light was so bright it could have been seen from the other side of the galaxy. Energy built up within the structure until the very fabric of space began to warp and distort around it. Then the ring released all that accumulated power in a single devastating pulse. The wave of energy washed over the Vorath fleet like the hand of an angry god. Daniel watched in stunned silence as the enemy ships simply ceased to exist. They did not explode. They did not break apart. They were just gone, erased from reality as if they had never been there at all. When the light finally faded, empty space remained where 20 warships had been moments before. Not even debris was left behind. The second relic spoke again. This time Daniel heard sadness in its ancient voice. So falls the unworthy. Bearer, you must now approach and claim what is rightfully yours. But know that your trials have only just begun. The path ahead will demand sacrifices beyond imagining. It will test you in ways you cannot yet comprehend. But if you remain true to justice even when it costs you everything, you may yet save this broken galaxy from the darkness that rises in the void. Daniel looked at Lisa and saw his own shock reflected in her eyes. He looked at his crew and saw fear mixed with determination. He thought about the billions of humans living on colony worlds throughout the galaxy, all depending on him now. He thought about the Preservation Pact and the war that was surely coming. Then we should not waste any more time, he said quietly. His voice was steady despite the turmoil in his heart. Take us forward to the ring. We have work to do and a galaxy to save.